our set of one downs should feel our empathy and our values, and their one down should feel that. So I feel it always starts at the top, but it kind of trickles down. And I feel like the best part is you create something out of thin air, right? There's nothing when you start as a founder, there's just thin air, right? You just have an idea, you see it coming to fruition, hire your first employees, convince your first investors. So that was very emotional to me, like building something out of thin air. I feel, the biggest risk is not changing, right? Change is good, in my opinion, because the world is moving at such a brutally fast pace. Unless we adopt to the new world, we get left behind. We fast track our process, right? Depending on the position we are hiring for. I mean, there are some steps we still need to go through to evaluate a candidate, get to know him better. And it's actually like I always feel it's a mutual evaluation, right? The candidate is also in the company. There needs to be a few times where both are evaluating each other. Your careers are short, learning is important. And if you're not learning or upskilling every 2 years or every year, then you get out of the system. So it's very important to just keep on that track.
Hi all, good morning. So the weekend is almost approaching, but before that, I have a guest with us whose name is Deepak. Deepak studied and did his specialties in MBA, studied from one of the top universities in India, IIT. He is working for a company that was recognized by Comparably for the 6 Best Company Awards, but also the company was named as a leader in ABM marketing. Let's welcome Deepak on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us about what it was like working for such a top renowned university back in India, how stressful it was, and where he is currently working at. Hi Deepak, how are you doing today?
Hey Minal, doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you so much. So Deepak, can you tell us about your journey, how it was like studying at IIT and your journey towards success?
Sure, yeah. IIT was a long time ago, but yes, it was. So I went to IIT for my undergrad, did my MBA right after, worked in a few geographies. So I started my work career in investment banking. Quickly realized that tech is eating the world, and moved from my banking to tech, and made my way from Australia to the US after that. And then again, so I've been looking at all these different transitions during my career, right? So moved from iBanking to tech, and when I was in tech, realized there are a lot of startups that are burgeoning in the valley, and that's where I need to be. So moved to the valley, joined a startup, then did my own startup. So I was a founder of Slintel. We had like a roller coaster, right? Like first time founder, raised a lot of money. We grew to about 200 employees.
Oh wow!
And then got acquired by Sixsense in October of last year. And Sixsense is, as you guys know, like it's a market leader, not just in ABM, but in the entire revenue AI. We call it revenue AI space. It's been like a phenomenal ride so far overall.
Okay, I think I'm curious to see. So you went into investment banking, realized that tech was eating the world, transitioned, moved across different countries. But I think a lot of people specifically are scared to make a move because change is scary, essentially. So what drove you towards taking a decision, moving different fields, moving across countries, and what was the motivation behind all of this?
I feel, the biggest risk is not changing, right? Change is good, in my opinion, because the world is moving at such a brutally fast pace. Unless we adopt to the new world, we get left behind, right? So I've always thrived in ambiguity and looked at change. And I feel like every job seeker, everybody who's joining other companies should always look for the learning in it. And are we upskilling ourselves? We don't live like 2 generations before us, people would work till they're 60, 70 years old. They would stick to a company for like 20 plus years, but we don't live in that world anymore. Your careers are short. Learning is important. And if you're not learning or upskilling every 2 years or every year, then, you get out of the system. So it's very important to just keep on that track.
That is true. I think a lot of startups specifically look for those characteristics because people need to be used to like challenges, uncertainty. So I can definitely see how and why it worked out for you. So my next question for you would be that you founded your own company, which was essentially then acquired by Sixsense. So how was it like being a founder of a company and now working for the company that acquired your company, specifically Deepak?
Yeah, 2 completely different experiences, but 2 great experiences. Again, it's the change that I was talking about. As a founder of the company, you call the shots, right? You make hiring decisions, you raise money from investors. And I feel like the best part is you create something out of thin air, right? There's nothing when you start as a founder, there's just thin air, right? You just have an idea, you see it coming to fruition, hire your first employees, convince your first investors. So that was very emotional to me, right? Like building something out of thin air and rallying an entire movement around it. Now, the acquisition helped us, get an exit, and we found this to be more strategically inclined for our companies. It's, the Six Sense acquisition. But post acquisition, things have been different in a very good way, because now we are learning how does like a company at this scale operate, and how do you integrate two completely different products into one, right? So it's a great learning experience of integration, team integration, scaling, and now we are looking at like much bigger things from now on. So the scale is very different. Like that's the one thing that struck me is everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the 1 to 10 journey versus the 10 to 100 journey is very, very different, right? So that's for
That
us.
is true. You did mention, Deepak, that you hired some of the first people for your own company. You had a company of 200 people before it was acquired. I would love to understand your hiring process. How was your hiring journey like, finding the right people for your team? Because I think it's hardest to get new people to start and come to your company, because you don't essentially have a name at the start. You really need to convince people to join your company just by the product, what you're doing, and why and how they could add value to it. So how was the journey like for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So in the initial days, it's extremely difficult with just an idea or just a MVP out there. So we would treat every hiring pitch like a VC pitch, right? We would prep up, right? Practice in front of a mirror, even practice the pitch in front of a
Wow.
candidate. And just like you're raising money, because it's as difficult, right? I don't know which is more difficult, like hiring your first
That
few
is true.
employees or hiring your first $1 million. Both are equally difficult. So every candidate pitch used to be a VC pitch for us, because we have to convince them on the vision. They're joining us for the vision, right? In the early stages. As we became a little bit bigger, we still started convincing people on the vision, but there was a working product, and they were customers, right? And people could do their own market research and they could do their background checks. So what started becoming important at that point in time, was culture. You'll hear this from everyone, but I can't stress the importance of culture enough, because Glassdoor ratings, what people are talking about in social media, reference checks, is like the number one filter for people before they join a company. Right? Nobody wants to join a company that is growing very fast but has like very bad culture. Nobody wants. Right? So thing about culture is it can't be just founder driven. Like every employee needs to be talking about the same thing. So our only focus was, hey, when we get to 100 employees size, we can't control what's happening with every single employee. We don't have that many interactions, right? So our set of one downs should feel our empathy and our values, and their one down should feel that. So I feel it always starts at the top, but it kind of trickles down in actions and stuff that you're doing. And it's not just like values that you talk about, but the way you act. Like if you're in a stressful situation, how do you treat your one down? If your one down is not performing or meeting targets, how do you treat it? Like all these small things matter, and that forms the DNA of the company. Right? So,
No, I absolutely love that. I think it's always a trickle down, because as in like the founder might have a vision, but if its employees don't believe in that vision, if they don't believe in the culture, the purpose by the founder, all of you will be on different pages. And at the end of the day, when you're actually working together, there will be differences that cannot coexist, just because there will be differences that clash with each other. So I love how you took a very uniform approach to make sure that each of you would be on the same page, and each of you would have similar values and believe in a similar cause. So I love that, and hats off to you to form such a culture which was loved by everyone. So thank you for sharing that, Deepak. So Deepak, last question would be, how is the pandemic affecting your company? Is your company growing? Is it hiring? Can you elaborate a little more on that?
oh yeah, we're growing. We're one of the fastest growing companies in the space that we are in, Revenue AI. Revenue AI itself is a new space that is becoming very, very big. So we are over 1,000 employees now, and still growing very, very fast in revenue and size. So we are hiring across all kinds of roles. And you should check our Glassdoor rating out. Six Sense's Glassdoor rating and Six Sense's reviews and comparably and other platforms. And you will figure out like why you need to join us, right? But we are hiring for product roles, UX, engineering, go to market, you name it. Like I'm sure there's an open position out there.
Okay. A follow-up question for that, Deepak, would be, what is your hiring process like? Because I think there, as in like a lot of companies these days are hiring, but what makes companies stand out is how fast they move candidates through the pipeline, because no one likes to be kept waiting. No one likes to be ghosted at the end of the day. So what is your hiring process like? When do candidates, how many steps are there on the process? Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, sure. So the process is slightly different for each job function, like for UX versus product versus engineering, and even job functions, it's slightly different for each. But overall, we understand we live in a world where candidates are also impatient, and they need answers quickly. So we fast track our process, right? Depending on the position we are hiring for. I mean, there are some steps we still need to go through to evaluate a candidate, get to know him better, and it's actually like I always feel it's a mutual evaluation, right? The candidate is also evaluating the company. There needs to be a few rounds where both are evaluating each other, but we move pretty fast. There are rounds where we have completed everything, from the first round to last round in less than a week, and rolled out for a candidate. And this is across multiple interviewers and HR agents, etc. But yeah, we can move pretty fast depending on how quickly the candidate wants to move as well.
I can definitely see why Glassdoor is rating you as one of the top companies, because I think getting your decision within a week or even less is something that's amazing. Just because, I mean, I think it's a candid market. These candidates are being offered job offerings like every day. So I think having that decision right in front of them makes things easier for them. And they know that, okay, this company does care about me. They know I can add value to them. So they would want me to be on board. So Six Sense is definitely doing something right. And I hope that it continues to make a difference in so many people's lives. Well, Deepak, our time is up. It was an absolute pleasure learning about you, your company, how you founded your own company, which was later acquired by Six Sense, and how now you're working for a company that is fast growing. And it's absolutely amazing. Thank you for today.
And thank you for having me.